Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. We are now having our fifth lesson of Akhlaq, the science of morality or ethics. And today we are going to start talking about the faculties of the soul. So we are going to talk about the faculties of the human soul. As human being progresses, as the human soul progresses in their journey in life, in their development from potentiality to actuality, one develops one's faculties. The human being in this process of development from potentiality to actuality in this journey of life develops their faculties. Each faculty has its actualizations, and their deeds begin to impact their soul. The things that humans do, the things that humans say, begin to influence and impact the human soul. Their repeated deeds leave an effect on the soul. This effect on the soul by repeated deeds is called malaka. When it becomes a fixed quality in the soul, that is called a malaka. The malaka that are found in the human soul in relation to his or her practical actions become the root of human deeds, become the root of human actions. Hence the human soul puts to use these malaka. It puts to use these malaka which are within them for the direction of its actions. So the human being, by doing certain things, it forms these malaka in the soul, these qualities in the soul. Then it puts into action those qualities in the soul for its actions. And it directs its actions towards those things. It makes it easier to perform those actions in accordance with a certain specific malaka. Therefore, these malaka are directly related to the way the person lives. It's directly related to the way the person lives, the way a person thinks, and the way a person acts. Hence, the speech and actions of mankind, when performed in a repeated manner, produce established effects on the soul, which are known as malaka. So when human beings do certain actions and certain deeds in a repetitive way, in a repetitive manner, where they make it a habit to do those things, it causes these malaka, these qualities, to be fixed in the human soul. Then the human being becomes very familiar with these malaka. These malaka that have now become qualities in the soul, the human being becomes very, very friendly with them, becomes very familiar with these malaka, and becomes very comfortable with these malaka. It becomes very comfortable with them, and it uses them. It becomes comfortable to use them. And it begins to easily act in accordance to them. At this point, they will manifest upon the tongue of mankind as speech, upon the hands and feet of mankind as actions. If they are good and noble, then they are called virtues. And if they are immoral and bad, they are called immoralities, immoral things. Hence, the human actions then will be attributed to by good moral acts or immoral, evil, bad deeds. So when the human being, through repetitive action, develops these malaka, or they have these malakas in the soul, then it will be easier to act in accordance with these malaka. And then those good malaka are termed as virtues, and the bad malaka are termed as vice. So this is what a malaka is when a person has a kind of quality in the soul that is a fixed quality due to due to like their so it's a fixed quality in their soul, and it makes it easier to act in accordance with those malaka. And this doesn't remove the ikhtiyar part of it, because one can still resist those malaka. The human soul is a beautiful essence. The human being is a beautiful essence in its soul, which uses the body and its limbs and body parts to obtain and attain its goals and purposes. This soul, according to some, is called ruh. Ruh, they translate into English as spirit. Some call it aql, intelligence. Some call it qalb, heart. So these terms, ruh, aql, and qalb, spirit, intelligence, and heart, these terms have other technical usages that differ from what Mola Naraki mentions. They are used interchangeably here. So So even though the human soul, according to its had adhati was the essential definition. We had different types of definition in Ilm Mantiq. We had rasam, and we had had. We had different types of defining things. This essential definition had adhati. The essential definition of the human being, the human soul, is haywanonautic, rational animal. It's something which moves with intention and perception and desire. So even though the human soul, according to its had adhati, its essential definition is haywanonautic, rational animal. Animal is something which moves with desire and perception. And the most important aim of the human soul is the ma'rifah of Allah, the awareness of Allah the Exalted, and the realization of Allah the Exalted. Here in Akhlaaq, we consider four important potentials, four important faculties of the human soul, which relate to the practical sciences. These are, first, we have al-quwwa al-aqliya. Now you may recognize al-aqliya here is intellect. So this is the faculty or potential of intellect. Its opposite to being an aql person is being a jahil. A jahil here in Akhlaaq, we translate and we give it the meaning of being a fool, foolish. So this is the first important faculty that's discussed in Ilm Akhlaaq, that we're going to discuss in Ilm Akhlaaq about the human soul, is the quwwa al-aqliya, the intellectual faculty. The second important faculty mentioned in Ilm Akhlaaq is al-quwwa al-ghadabiyya. This is the faculty of potential of anger. Here we talk of courage. And irascibility. This irascibility is, we'll talk about it later, and we'll define it, and we'll discuss about it more in depth. This is the kind of condemnable anger. This is like we have in the narration mentioned in Kitab al-Kafi, al-ghadabu miftahu kulli shar. The anger is the key to every evil. This is the kind of condemnable anger. Courage is a good quality. Courage is a virtue. So over here on this potential of ghadabiyya, of anger, we talk about courage and irascibility. The third is al-quwwa ash-shahwiyya. This is the potential or faculty of desire. This is the animalistic desires. Food, drink, sex. These are the animalistic desires. So this is the potential that deals with them, the appetitive desires and the sexual desires. That's where we talk about things like chastity. Fourth is we have al-guhwa al-wahmiya. Al-guhwa wahmiya. Al-guhwa al-wahmiya is the faculty and potential of imagination. Is the faculty and potential of imagination. So these are four important faculties that are discussed in Ilm al-Akhlaq that we're going to talk about in these lessons. We have the potential of intellect, the potential of anger, the potential of desires, of animalistic desires, and the potential of imagination. So these all have many topics related to them. It is commonly understood amongst people the importance and value of each of these faculties. Like if mankind did not have aql, did not have reason, it would be impossible that mankind distinguishes between good and evil. Mankind would not be able to see the difference between good and evil, right and wrong, just and unjust, true and false. So this is definitely a valuable faculty of humanity, the faculty of the intellectual faculty. And if there was no faculty of desire, then the human species would not continue. There would be no recreation, and the human beings would be endangered. They'd be endangered. And if mankind did not have imagination, then they would not be able to visualize universals and particulars and make inferences on them. So all four of these faculties are very important faculties in the human soul. They are the faculty of the intellectual faculty, the anger faculty, the desire faculty, and the imaginative faculty. The imaginative faculty provides the material for formation of satanic planning and plots. And the shahwiya, if directed the wrong, propels mankind to immorality, and it propels mankind to evil. Similarly, the faculty of anger can ruin the people and rights and be very harmful and immoral when directed in vice. So the faculties of imagination could be harmful. The faculty of shahwiya can be harmful. The faculty of anger can be harmful. All these could have vices. They could have bad effects if they're directed the wrong way. Hence, if the faculty of aql, reason, is put as the amir, as the leader, the imam, in control of these and other faculties, it keeps them reined into the right place and moderates them instead of them being in their excess or negligence. This is actually justice in these faculties. This is what we call justice in these faculties. Otherwise, it will produce mischief. It will produce corruption and evil from them. You could imagine, to illustrate the relationship of the faculties with the human soul, that there is a traveler who is traveling on horseback. Along with him is a dog, and a man who keeps watch and spies for bandits. So you have this, say, to illustrate this, you have this, imagine you have a traveler who is traveling on horseback. Along with him, he has a dog and a man who keeps watch, and spies for bandits. He's on the watch out for bandits. The mounted traveler, he represents reason, intellect, aql. The animal which he is riding, that mountain which he is riding, represents desire, passions, shahwiya. The dog, it represents the faculty of anger. And the watch out guy, the spy, he represents the imaginative faculty. So if you want to consider these four faculties in an illustrative way, you could imagine them as like this: a guy who's traveling with on a horse or something and has a dog, and a guy who's spying for bandits. If the traveler is successful, in controlling his horse, controlling the dog and the spy, and in keeping authority over them, he will arrive at his destination safely. Otherwise, if not, he will be ruined and destroyed. Hence, human being is at a constant battle between these four faculties in him or herself. So he's in constant battle. The dominant characteristics of the human will be the result of who is victorious in this battle. So that whatever who is victorious in this battle, that will be the dominant features and qualities of this human being. He's in a constant battle between these faculties. Will the dog overcome the person, or will the horse overcome the person? Will the spy overcome the person? So will the intellect be overcome by the desires? Will the intellect be overcome by the anger? Will the intellect be overcome by the imagination? Or will the intellect override them all and be imam of them all? If the intellect is over them all, then the person will be victorious in this battle, and they'll come out a virtuous person. Otherwise, they'll come out immoral person. So it is narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that he was asked, who is better, the angels or the children of the angels or the children of Adam? The angels or Bani Adam? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, in this narration, he quoted Imam Ali alayhi salam. He said, Allah gave the angels intellect without desires, and he gave the animals desires without intellect, and he gave both to the sons of Adam. So a man whose intellect prevails over his desires is better than the angels, whilst the man whose desires prevails over his intellect is worse than the animals. So these are very important features, a very important akhlaqi point, that the intellect must overrule all these faculties in the human soul. Now about pleasure. Pleasure is a condition that the human soul experiences when it knows or perceives something which agrees with its own nature. Pain, what is pain? Pain and suffering is an experience of the soul that arrives from the contact with things which are not in harmony with the soul's nature. Therefore, in accordance with this, and the fact that there are four faculties, we then can say the pleasure of the akal faculty, the pleasure of the intellectual faculty, is in gaining knowledge about the reality of things. And its pain, the pain of the intellectual faculty, is in ignorance and deprivation of such knowledge. And the highest knowledge is that knowledge of the highest being. The most perfect knowledge is that of the most perfect being. Allah is the most high, most lofty, and there's no way to describe his perfection. That's how perfect he is. Hence, knowing Allah the Exalted, realizing Allah the Exalted, is the most perfect pleasure one can experience. So that's the peak of pleasure. That's the peak of pleasure, is to realize Allah. That's the peak of knowledge. So the aql faculty, the intellectual faculty, has its pleasure in gaining knowledge. And the highest knowledge is knowledge about Allah. And the pain of the intellectual faculty is in deprivation of such knowledge, is in ignorance. And what about the faculty of anger? Where is its pleasure and pain? The pleasure of the faculty of anger is in feeling victory. When someone wins in a debate or wins in a race, or they get victory over someone, the pleasure of this anger faculty is there, is present. The human soul experiences the pleasure of the anger faculty, and it's present for it when it has victory. When it has victory and satisfaction on overcoming an enemy or an opponent. The pain of the anger faculty is in feeling overpowered or defeated. When someone is defeated or overpowered, they feel the pain of the anger faculty. The pleasure of the faculty of shahwiya, of shahwa, is in enjoyment of food, drink, and sexual joys. Is where the pleasure of the sexual faculty and appetitive faculty, the shahwiya faculty, al-shahwiya, is in food, drink, and sexual joys. The pain of this faculty is in denial of those experiences. It pains the pleasure faculty through being deprived of those experiences, of those food, drink, or sexual joys. The pleasure of the imaginative faculty, the wahmiya one, is in visualization of particulars, which lead to the appearance of carnal desires and satanic tendencies. And its pains are in the insufficiency and inadequacy of those visions. So these are, when we talk about pleasure and pain, we say pleasure is the experience that the human soul is experiencing when it knows or perceives something which agrees with its own nature. Pain is the suffering and experience of the soul that arrives from the contact with things that are not in harmony with the soul's nature. And then when you look at these faculties, you say the pleasure of intellectual faculty is in knowledge of about the reality of things. The pleasure of anger faculty is in victory and satisfaction of overcoming an opponent. The pleasure of faculty of shahwiya is in the food and drink and sexual pleasures. The pleasure of imaginative faculty is in the visualization of particulars which lead to appearance of carnal desires and satanic tendencies. The pain of the intellectual faculty is in ignorance and deprivation of knowledge. The pain of the anger faculty is in being overpowered and defeated. The pain of the shahwiya faculty is being denied those food and drink and sexual pleasures, experiences. And the pain of the imaginative faculty is in insufficiency and inadequacy in those visions, in those imaginations. Now, Mola Naraki, he says, the strongest and purest of pleasures is the pleasure experienced by the faculty of reason. The most strongest and most purest of pleasures is the pleasure experienced by the faculty of reason. This is a form of pleasure which is both inherent and natural to man. It is a pleasure which is constant, not subject to changing experiences in his daily life. It is unlike the other pleasures, which belong to the body and being animalistic, are transitory in nature and without any lasting value. They're temporal things. These animal pleasures are in fact so low and trivial that man is ashamed of them and tries to conceal them. If it were to be said of a man that he derives great pleasure from eating, drinking, and engaging in sexual intercourse, he shall be ashamed and upset about it. While if such activities and pleasures were becoming for man, not only would he not be ashamed of them, he would in fact be glad if such matter were published widely and be proud of it. So we can conclude, he says, then that the kind of pleasure that is becoming for man and could be said to be really gratifying and not to be such in appearance alone is the kind of pleasure experienced by the soul's reason faculty, by akliya, by akal. This sort of pleasure has many degrees, the highest of which is experienced in nearness to God. This most sublime of pleasures is attained through love and knowledge of God, and acquired through abiding effort to be ever nearer to Him. When one's whole effort is directed towards attaining this real and lasting pleasure, sensual pleasures, those sense perception pleasures like sex, food, and drink, will be overshadowed. They'll be overshadowed by this kind of pleasure. They shall take their proper place in man's life, being pursued in moderation. So that is about the four faculties in the human soul, which we're going to have much discussion related to all these faculties in the coming lessons. They were first faculty of the human soul is the faculty of akliya, the intellectual faculty. The second one was faculty of anger, which is the faculty or potential of anger. The third one is a faculty of ashahwiya, the potential of faculty of animalistic desires like sex, food, and drink, and the wahmiya, the imaginative faculty. And that is where I will end the lesson for this time. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.